Hello friends, this is Vishnu here. Welcome to my channel Vishnu's Medicine Diaries. So let's continue with our previous video, that is facial nerve. Okay, let's go to the lesions of the facial nerve, and firstly let's deal with the element lesions and finally our UMN lesions. Okay, and hence find the difference between these two. Okay, so let's go to the video without wasting any time. Okay, but before that, if you haven't subscribed my channel, please subscribe it as far as possible. Okay, and also share it with your friends, juniors, etc. Okay, so friends, this is the course of the facial nerve. Okay, and you can see the lower motor neuron is nothing but the part from the motor nucleus and also the entire facial nerve. Okay, the upper motor neuron is nothing but the nerve fibers from the cerebrum. Okay, the brain. Okay, the brain from both the hemispheres towards the motor nucleus. Okay, they are the upper motor neurons. Now let's deal with the element lesions. So where can the element lesions take place? Okay, so we can discuss four different cases. Okay, four different sites where this element lesion can take place. Okay, so let's go from below to upwards. Okay, so here the lowermost position is usually the at or above the site of this stylomastoid foramen, that is through which the facial nerve comes out. Okay, if a lesion occurs at that point, then what happens? We can see that the entire branches, entire facial nerve that is affecting the that is supplying the muscles of facial expression are affected. Okay, so that is a condition where Bell's palsy occurs. Okay, Bell's palsy. So what are the signs and symptoms of this Bell's palsy? Okay, so let's look. Okay, so Bell's palsy is nothing but a lower motor neuron lesion. Okay, so you can see this is a Bell's palsy. Okay, these are symptoms of Bell's palsy. That is, firstly, okay, let's start from the face as a whole and from above to lower. Okay, so first of all, there will be facial asymmetry. Why? This is because the ipsilateral face, ipsilateral means on the same side of the face, where the lesion has occurred is affected, and hence this affected side will be pulled towards the normal side, but as the muscles of the normal side are still normal, that is, these normal muscles will pull the face towards that side, the normal side. So that's all. That is the facial asymmetry. Next point, there will be loss of wrinkles. There will be loss of transverse wrinkles on the face. Then that is due to the paralysis of occipitofrontalis muscle. Now nextly, our nothing but we can deal with the eyeball. Eyes and the eyeball. And we can see there is a widening of the orbital fissure. The palpebral fissure will be widened. And also there will be tears, tears falling off, that is epiphora. Also as you can see here, there will be inability to close the eye. This is nothing but due to the paralysis of orbicularis oculi muscles. Then next one, that is our Bell's phenomenon. What is Bell's phenomenon? As the person, as the patient closes the eyes, his eyeball on the affected side will move upwards and outwards, upwards and outwards. That phenomenon is known as Bell's phenomenon, which is a very important phenomenon if you go to clinics also. So it is a very important phenomenon. So that is Bell's phenomenon. Now next one, next one is nothing but the loss of the nasolabial furrow. Nasolabial folds will be away. Nasolabial folds will be lost. Now nextly there will be deviation of the angle of mouth towards the opposite side, that is towards the unaffected or the normal side. And this is due to the paralysis of the zygomaticus major. Also there will be dribbling of saliva, dribbling of saliva on the affected side of the mouth. On the affected side of the face there will be dribbling of saliva from the mouth. And that is due to the paralysis of the muscle orbicularis oris. Nextly, there is a paralysis of the buccinator muscles. There is a paralysis of buccinator muscles, and due to which what happens? The food accumulates within the vestibule of the mouth. And also when a person with Bell's palsy is asked to blow with his mouth closed, then there will be leakage of the air through the mouth, and this is also because of a paralysis of the various muscles of the mouth, including the buccinator, then orbicularis oris, etc. So that's all about the Bell's palsy, that is ipsilateral facial palsy. Okay, and now let's go to the next level of element lesion, that is when it occurs near the, when it occurs just before the branching of the chorda tympani. Okay, when it occurs just before the branching of the chorda tympani, what happens? Okay, we know that the chorda tympani contains the parasympathetic fibers towards the submandibular and the sublingual salivary glands, and also taste fibers from the anterior two-third of the mouth. Okay, from the anterior two-third of the mouth. So what happens? These innervations will be lost. Okay, these innervations will be lost. Okay, that is the taste sensations. Okay, the patient will lose his taste sensations on the anterior two-third of the mouth. Okay, and also here the salivation also decreases. Okay, also there will be Bell's palsy too. Okay, and now what is the next level? Okay, next level is our nerve to stapedius. Okay, at that level what happens? Okay, there will be hyperacusis. That is, as you know, what is the function of stapedius? Okay, stapedius muscle controls the movements of the ear ossicles, that is stapes and all. Okay, so that's how it regulates the hearing. Okay, so we know, you know that the stapedius muscle is supplied by nothing but our nerve to stapedius. Okay, the first branch of facial nerve element. Okay, so what happens? Okay, there will be a nerve supply to the stapedius will be lost, and hence hyperacusis occurs as a result. Okay, and here also there will be Bell's palsy. Okay, now at the final stage, okay, the major next site is at our geniculate ganglion. At our geniculate ganglion, what happens? The parasympathetic fibers to the lacrimal gland goes, and so what happens? Okay, lacrimation is also affected in addition to all the above. Okay, so now let's go to the UMN lesion. So what happens in UMN lesion? So first of all, let's learn how the nerve supply is, and then go to the UMN lesion. It's very easy. Okay, that is, this is the diagram. Okay, you can see that. Okay, I have told you that regarding the motor nerve nucleus, but here there is one thing in addition, that is motor nucleus of the facial nerve has two parts, an upper part as well as a lower part. Okay, as shown here, and this upper part supplies the upper half of the face. Okay, the upper quadrants of the face. Okay, the face can be divided into 4 quadrants, and the upper quadrants are supplied by our upper part of motor nucleus, and the lower part, okay, the lower part of the face is supplied by our lower part of the motor nucleus. Okay, and so how is the innervation coming from the brain? Okay, this motor nucleus is getting some nerve fibers from the brain. Okay, how is the nerve fibers coming? Okay, for example, okay, let's take the right hemisphere part. Okay, right cerebral hemisphere. So the nerve fibers from the right cerebral hemisphere, okay, comes to the, okay, innervates the upper part of both the nucleus. Okay, upper part of both the right and the left facial motor nucleus. Okay, while the lower part of the right motor nucleus is supplied by the contralateral, that is opposite, the fibers from the left hemisphere. Okay, and the same thing is occurring for the left motor nucleus also. So what happens? Okay, if a lesion, okay, if you think about a lesion occurring at this upper motor neuron means just before this motor neuron from the brain. Okay, at the right side, if the right upper motor neuron gets affected, okay, due to some changes, okay, due to some infections or due to some aneurysms and all, if the upper motor neuron on the right side is affected, then what happens? A lesion occurs there. What happens? We have the upper part of the right neuron, okay, right motor nucleus, and the upper part of left motor nucleus, they are getting innervations from the left upper motor neuron also. Okay, so what happens? Okay, the upper part of the face still gets innervations, and hence it is not at all affected. Okay, the same is the case for the lower part of the same right side of the face. Okay, that is because it is getting innervation from the left upper motor neuron. Okay, but what is the case of the contralateral lower side of the face? The thing is that, okay, we have, okay, this lower part of this opposite side, in this case the left side. Okay, the lower part of the left side of the face is actually supplied by our upper motor neuron on the right side. Okay, so what happens? It is actually affected, and hence our lower part of the left face, okay, left lower part of the face gets affected. Okay, and all the symptoms of facial palsy will be seen on the lower part of the face, sparing the upper half. Okay, so in that case, so in case of element facial palsy, we will have the ipsilateral, okay, the ipsilateral part of the face is affected, while in upper motor neuron lesion, the contralateral lower part of the face is affected. What is the reason? Okay, this can be asked for Viva and all. Okay, what is the reason? It is nothing but due to the bilateral cortical innervation. Okay, so that's all regarding the upper motor neuron and lower motor neuron lesions of the facial nerve. Also, last but not the least, okay, we have two more syndromes, okay, associated with our facial nerve. Okay, that is nothing but crocodile tears syndrome and Ramsay-Hunt syndrome. So, what is crocodile tears syndrome? What do you mean by crocodile tears? It means that it's based on an ancient belief that crocodiles cry. Okay, the crocodiles cry after killing their prey. Okay, that is what they tell. Okay, so the same thing happens here. There is, whenever such a person, okay, affected by crocodile tears syndrome has food, okay, along with this salivation, or instead of this salivation, there will be excess lacrimation. That is, the tear gland will secrete more secretions. Okay, that is, lacrimal gland secretion increases. Okay, so that is called as crocodile tear syndrome. What is the cause? Okay, what is the etiology behind it? It is nothing but because the fibers. Okay, we know, I told you that the same parasympathetic fiber divides into two. Okay, at the geniculate ganglia, one to the lacrimal gland and the other to the salivary glands. Okay, so this has been mentioned in the previous video. Okay, so if you haven't seen that, please go to the video and watch it. Okay, so since the same parasympathetic fiber, okay, the branch to the lacrimal gland as well as the salivary gland, what happens is that sometimes these nerve fibers, okay, the nerve fibers to the salivary gland may grow, okay, regrow into the lacrimal gland, into the fibers going to the lacrimal gland, or the sensations, instead of going into the salivary gland, may go to the lacrimal gland due to various other reasons. Okay, that is, so in short, what is happening there? There is the signals, instead of being sent to the salivary glands, or instead of being fully sent to the salivary gland, some signals also go to the lacrimal gland. That's all. Now let's come to the Ramsay-Hunt syndrome. Ramsay-Hunt syndrome is nothing but associated with herpes zoster infections. Okay, herpes zoster infections. So what happens? There will be all signs and symptoms of element facial palsy. Okay, the element is usually affected, and also there will be how to differentiate it from a normal facial palsy to the Ramsay-Hunt syndrome. Okay, it is by the vesicles. Okay, the herpes zoster vesicles over the auricular area and all. Okay, that's all. So friends, I hope you have understood the concepts up to this, and if you have any doubts, please feel free to ask me, and at the same time, if you have any suggestions, please tell me also. Okay, and so I will be back with new such good videos. Until then, bye bye.